She never came home. She tied her shoes, grabbed her headphones, and said she'd be back before breakfast. But that breakfast went cold, and hours later, her family's entire world fell apart. It was 5:32 a.m., a quiet suburban street in Raleigh, North Carolina. The kind of street where neighbors wave, sprinklers hum, and morning joggers trace the same familiar paths every day. But on the morning of October 18th, 2019, one jogger's path didn't lead back home. Instead, it led investigators to grainy CCTV footage that revealed a nightmare. This is the story of Rachel Miller. Rachel Miller was 27 years old, a daughter, a sister, a beloved preschool teacher known for her patience and her smile. Her colleagues described her as the one who never raised her voice, but somehow always had the room under control. Her mother, Linda, said, "Rachel just had this energy about her. The kids loved her, parents loved her. She loved life. She loved running. It was her peace." Running was Rachel's ritual. Every morning before the sun broke, she laced up her worn Nike sneakers, pulled her hair into a ponytail, and traced the sidewalks of her neighborhood. Always the same 3-mile loop, always home before sunrise, safe, predictable, ordinary, until it wasn't. On October 18th, 2019, Rachel's roommate Allison woke at 7 a.m. expecting to hear the familiar sound of the shower running, but the apartment was silent. "At first I thought maybe she'd stopped for coffee," Allison later told police, "but by 8 o'clock my gut told me something was wrong." By 9:15 a.m., Rachel's phone was going straight to voicemail. By 10 o'clock, Allison called Rachel's parents. By 11:30, police were notified. The search began immediately. Friends, neighbors, co-workers all canvassing the jogging route Rachel knew by heart, and then a break. At 2:14 p.m., officers discovered something near a storm drain less than a mile from Rachel's apartment, a single running shoe, size 7, purple Nike, the tread worn down from hundreds of miles. It was Rachel's, but Rachel herself was nowhere. Detectives called in K-9 units. The dogs picked up a scent trail that abruptly ended at a nearby intersection, almost as if Rachel had vanished into thin air. But someone had seen something, and that someone didn't even realize it until later. A local resident, Mark Jennings, told reporters, "I was driving to work around 6. There was a jogger, I think it was Rachel, and I saw a dark SUV pull up ahead. I didn't think much of it at the time, but later I couldn't shake it." The SUV, that was the first lead. Investigators pulled every piece of surveillance footage from gas stations, traffic lights, and businesses near Rachel's route, and on one grainy camera outside a convenience store at 5:47 a.m., they found it. Rachel, jogging past. Seconds later, headlights. A dark SUV slowly trailing her. The vehicle matched the description Mark had given, but the footage wasn't clear enough to read a plate. Still, it was confirmation. Rachel hadn't simply collapsed or gotten lost. Someone was following her. Detectives began digging. Who owned dark SUVs in the area? Who had a record? Who knew Rachel's routine? The unsettling truth: more people than expected. Because Rachel wasn't just a jogger, she was also a teacher, a friend, a neighbor, and someone had been watching her. Her co-workers revealed she'd mentioned being followed weeks before. "She told me she thought a car had slowed down near her on her runs," one colleague recalled. "I told her maybe it was nothing. I wish I had told her to call the police." It wasn't nothing. 3 days later, on October 21st, search teams scouring a wooded area 2 miles from Rachel's last known location discovered a chilling sight. A section of disturbed earth, fresh, shallow. Beneath it, a pile of clothing. Rachel's running shorts, her sweatshirt, torn, dirty, but nobody. The scene raised even more questions. If Rachel had been attacked, why bury only her clothes? Why move her body? And then came the discovery that changed everything. On October 23rd, forensic testing confirmed traces of DNA on Rachel's sweatshirt. DNA belonging to a man already in the criminal database. His name, David Carter. A 34-year-old man with a history of stalking and assault, and he drove a black Ford Explorer. David Carter lived less than 10 minutes from Rachel's apartment, Neighbors described him as quiet but odd, but Carter's record told another story. In 2015, he'd been arrested for harassing a woman he met at a gym. In 2017, he'd been investigated but not convicted for an assault involving a woman who had been jogging. Somehow, he always slipped through the cracks. And now, investigators believed he had escalated. On October 24th, a SWAT team moved in. Carter was arrested outside his home. Inside, police found a disturbing collection: women's running gear, dozens of photos of joggers, and handwritten notes describing routines, times, and locations. One notebook even had Rachel's name. But Carter wasn't talking, and Rachel was still missing. Detectives re-examined the original CCTV footage, this time frame by frame. At 5:49 a.m., just 2 minutes after Rachel jogs past, the SUV stops at the curb. A figure gets out. It's dark, blurry, but investigators believe they see a struggle. Rachel's outline, arms flailing, then nothing. The SUV door slams, the vehicle speeds off. That footage, combined with DNA and Carter's disturbing obsession, painted a chilling picture. But prosecutors knew it wasn't enough without Rachel's body. As news spread, Rachel's case gripped the community. Vigils, posters, social media campaigns with the hashtag #RunForRachel. Women across Raleigh admitted they had changed their routines. No more jogging alone, no more headphones, pepper spray in every hand. Rachel's mother said, "I don't want another parent to feel this. I don't want another girl to never come home because someone was watching." The city was afraid and demanding justice. By early 2020, prosecutors charged David Carter with first-degree kidnapping and murder despite Rachel's body still missing. The defense argued there was no proof Rachel was dead, that without a body, the case was built on assumptions. But the jury would later hear about Carter's past, his stalking, his obsession, his notebook, and then a final twist before trial. In June 2020, investigators searching a storage unit rented under Carter's name discovered something sealed inside a plastic container. Inside were VHS tapes, dozens of them, each labeled with dates, each showing footage of women running, and one tape dated October 18, 2019. The morning Rachel vanished. Investigators set up a viewing. The tape crackled with static before showing a familiar street, Rachel's jogging route. The angle was high, hidden as if from a tree or utility pole. And then, there she was. Rachel, running, her ponytail swaying. Seconds later, the dark SUV pulls into frame. Carter steps out. The grainy camera captured everything: the approach, the struggle, Rachel being forced inside. But what came next was even worse. The tape didn't stop at the abduction. It followed the SUV to a remote dirt road. Another hidden camera was already there. The implication was chilling. This wasn't random. This was planned. One officer present during the viewing later said, "We had to stop the tape. People were crying, even hardened detectives. It was the most disturbing thing I've ever seen." Prosecutors finally had what they needed: visual proof. Rachel hadn't just disappeared. She had been abducted by David Carter. But there was more. Other tapes revealed other women, joggers, shoppers, women who in some cases had never even realized they were being filmed, and some of those women were still missing. Detectives began cross-referencing the dates on the tapes with unsolved missing persons cases in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. The overlap was undeniable. Carter had been documenting women for years. Rachel was not his first. She might not have been his last. Rachel's mother said in court filings, "Knowing she was watched, followed, and taken, it broke us. But what destroyed me is realizing she wasn't the only one. There were others. He did this before. He would have done it again." The case had shifted. Rachel's abduction was now part of something much bigger. By September 2020, prosecutors unveiled their strategy. They weren't just charging Carter with kidnapping and murder. They were introducing evidence of a serial predator. The VHS tapes, the notebooks, the stalking reports, the DNA on Rachel's sweatshirt, the SUV on CCTV. The picture was clear. Carter had hunted Rachel. But Carter's defense fought back. They claimed the tapes didn't prove murder, that the footage stopped before showing Rachel's death, that without a body, the state was asking the jury to assume. They painted Carter as a disturbed man, yes, but not a killer. And in October 2020, a bombshell piece of evidence seemed to support their argument. Detectives analyzing one of the tapes dated weeks after Rachel's disappearance spotted something almost impossible. A woman, pale, thin, wearing what looked like Rachel's sweatshirt. The footage was grainy, the angle distant, but the resemblance was striking. Could Rachel have been alive after October 18th? When this possibility leaked, it reignited the community's hope and their anger. If she was alive, why didn't the police find her? Why didn't they search those areas sooner? Neighbors asked. Rachel's sister, Emily, said through tears, "I don't know what's worse, thinking she was gone right away or thinking she suffered for weeks, maybe months before the end." Detectives confronted Carter with the new tape. "Is this Rachel? Did you keep her alive?" Carter's only response, "You'll never find her. She's mine." During pretrial hearings, prosecutors revealed another discovery. Hidden in the storage unit was a second container. Inside, jewelry, necklaces, bracelets, rings, keepsakes, trophies. Among them, Rachel's silver cross pendant, the one she never ran without. Her mother confirmed it. That was Rachel's. She wore it every day since high school. But one item stood out from the rest. A driver's license, not Rachel's, not any woman linked to the case so far. A completely different name. A woman from Georgia who vanished in 2016. And when investigators pulled the thread, they realized something terrifying. David Carter's crimes weren't confined to Raleigh. They stretched across state lines. Rachel's story began as one jogger's morning run. But it was becoming clear, her case was only one chapter in a much larger nightmare. How many women had Carter targeted? How many names in his notebooks belonged to real victims? And what would investigators uncover when they dug into his past? We'll answer those questions and reveal the shocking courtroom testimony that shook the jury in part 2. For now, we remember Rachel, a teacher, a daughter, a runner, a life that should have been safe. If this case has shaken you the way it has shaken us, share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter, because the darkest revelations are still to come.